You have been told your whole life that beans are good for you. Every health authority on Earth says it. Someone finally added up more than 1 million people to check. In half the world, the benefit was exactly 0. In the next few minutes, you will find out which single cause of death beans actually move, and which 3 they do not touch at all, and why the same bean seems to add years in one country and nothing in another. You will find out the one thing almost no study ever bothered to write down that may turn out to be the whole answer, and why the most quoted number about beans is shakier than anyone tells you. Start with something ordinary. A tin of baked beans on a supermarket shelf. It costs less than a coffee. Nobody has ever tried to sell you a monthly subscription to it. And yet line up every food that health authorities actually agree on, and beans sit near the top. Lentils, chickpeas, black beans, split peas, the cheapest shelf in the shop. So here is what should bother you. If beans was straightforwardly good for everyone, the numbers would look the same everywhere. They do not. Not even close. Why would the same food behave differently on 2 different continents? Hold on to that question. It takes the rest of this video to get anywhere near an answer. Beans have been feeding people for a very long time. Lentils show up at settlement sites in the Near East from around 10,000 years ago. They were among the first plants humans ever domesticated. That is older than writing, older than the wheel. Before anyone had built a city, somebody was soaking lentils overnight so they would soften on the fire. The reason had nothing to do with health. Beans keep. A dry bean sits in a jar for a year and waits for you. Meat does not do that. They also carry protein without needing an animal. Fiber, iron, magnesium. For most of human history, beans were not a health choice. They were how you got through winter. Not everyone was a fan. Pythagoras is remembered for a theorem about triangles. He was also famous in the ancient world for forbidding his followers to eat fava beans. Nobody knows exactly why he banned them, but there is a real medical condition that might explain it. Some people carry a genetic variant that makes fava beans dangerous to them. In those people, a plate of fava beans can start destroying red blood cells within a day. It is called favism. It is most common around the Mediterranean, and it is still real today. So the oldest food argument on record was never about calories. It was about one bean doing one thing to one person and something completely different to another. Keep that in your pocket. It is exactly the shape of the puzzle we're walking into. Now jump forward to the last 50 years. Something odd happened to beans. They stopped being peasant food and started being evidence. Researchers noticed that the populations who live the longest tend to eat a lot of them. Black beans in Costa Rica, chickpeas in Sardinia, soy and sweet potato in Okinawa. That turned into one of the most repeated claims in modern nutrition. If you want to reach 100, eat the beans. It sounds like a conclusion. It is a coincidence that kept turning up. And this is where almost every version of the story goes wrong. People hear that long-lived populations eat beans, and they store it as beans make you live longer. Those are not the same sentence. Those populations also walk everywhere. They are poorer in money and richer in time. They eat less meat because meat was expensive. Beans are one thread in a knot, with 50 threads in it. Nutrition researchers have a name for this trap: the healthy user effect. The whole idea fits in one line. The sort of person who does the recommended thing usually does 10 other recommended things too. Picture the trolley at the checkout. The one with the lentils in it also has the vegetables and the olive oil. That person is more likely to walk and less likely to smoke. So when the numbers say bean eaters live longer, you cannot tell which part of that trolley did the work. Maybe it was the lentils. Maybe the lentils were standing next to whatever did. Statisticians try to strip that out. They adjust for smoking and exercise and weight. But adjusting is not the same as removing. And underneath it sits a second problem no adjustment can touch: Think about what actually happens when you add beans to your week. You do not simply add them. Something else leaves the plate to make room. That is the substitution question. Every food you eat more of means some other food you eat less of. What you end up measuring is the gap between the two. Swap a sugary pastry breakfast for a bowl of lentils, and the change looks enormous. Swap white rice for beans, and it looks decent. Swap walnuts and oats for beans, and it may look like nothing. Same bean. 3 completely different answers, and the bean never changed once. So a study finding that beans do nothing might not be telling you beans are useless. It might be telling you those people were already eating something just as good. If you enjoy watching a piece of advice everyone agrees on quietly come apart under real numbers, then subscribe. We find one of these every week, and this one is about to get stranger. So what if the problem was never what the beans replaced? Picture a full English breakfast. There are the beans, sitting in the corner of the plate beside 2 rashers of bacon and a sausage and a fried egg. Now picture a bowl of mung dal, lentils cooked soft with turmeric and vegetables, and spooned over brown rice. Both of those count as eating legumes on a questionnaire. Both get ticked in the same box. To the form, they are the identical food. Call it the company a food keeps. No food arrives on your plate alone, and the things beside it change what that meal does to you. Boston baked beans are cooked with molasses and salt pork. Refried beans are traditionally cooked in lard. Beans on toast comes with butter and white bread. None of that makes beans bad. It makes the word beans almost useless as a description of what somebody actually ate. Cooking matters more than most people realize. Raw kidney beans are genuinely toxic. 4 or 5 of them uncooked can put you on the bathroom floor for a night. Boiling them properly destroys the compound entirely. Same bean. One version is dinner and the other version is a hospital story. Now here is the part that should stop you. Almost none of the long-term studies ever recorded how the beans were cooked, or what was served next to them. They recorded a number, grams per day. Then they followed those people for years and counted who died. Remember the split we opened with. Half the world getting extra years and the other half getting nothing. We have 3 suspects now and no way yet to choose between them. There is one test that separates a real effect from a coincidence. It is called dose response. If something genuinely protects you, then more of it should protect you more. A little does a little. Twice as much does roughly twice as much. If that line goes flat or wanders around, then whatever you are looking at is probably not the food. It is the logic you already trust everywhere else. 1 drink and 10 drinks are not the same risk. 10 minutes of walking and an hour of walking are not the same benefit. So the question stops being, do bean eaters live longer? It becomes whether each extra spoonful buys you anything. That is far harder to measure, and it needs an enormous number of people, which is exactly what the work behind this video went and assembled. Every long-term study ever run on this question was pulled into one pile. More than 30 of them. Between them, they had followed over 1 million people for as long as 26 years. Close to 100,000 of those people died during the follow-up. That is the raw material here. 1 million lives and 100,000 endings. The headline result is real and it is modest. The people eating the most beans were about 6% less likely to die during the study than the people eating the least. 6% means almost nothing to one person. Across a whole country, it is thousands of funerals that never happened. And the dose-response line held straight. Every extra 50 grams a day lined up with that same 6%. 50 grams is about half a cup of cooked beans. Now the ranking. This is where it turns uncomfortable. Deaths from stroke came out about 9% lower. That one counted. Then heart disease, nothing. Deaths from coronary disease, nothing. And cancer produced the biggest looking number in the whole analysis and still did not count. The cancer figure sat right on the line. Pull one single study out of the pile, and it tips over into real. Leave it in, and it does not. That is how thin this is. And then comes the split nobody had asked for. When the studies were sorted by where in the world they were done, the picture broke cleanly in two. So why does the same bean add years in one half of the world and nothing at all in the other? Across the studies done in Asia, the effect was strong and steady. Across the studies done in Europe, it was flat. In the United States, it was flat too. Not small. Flat. And the studies that pooled many countries at once showed the largest benefit of the lot, which only makes those two flat lines stranger. The research team behind this offered one possible explanation, and they were careful to say they could not prove it. In the United States and much of Europe, beans tend to arrive with bacon and sausages and eggs. Across much of Asia, they arrive with vegetables and brown rice. Same food on the survey, completely different meal in the mouth. If that is the answer, then none of this was ever really about the bean. They say plainly that this needs further study. It is a hypothesis and not a result, and that difference matters more than any number in this video. Here is the honest floor under all of it. Nothing in this work proves beans cause anything. They watched people and they counted. That is all watching can ever do. Most of those studies asked what people ate one single time at the very start, then followed them for a decade or two and never asked again. And that stroke figure, the strongest single result in the whole analysis. Take 2 of the 5 studies behind it out, and it stops being significant at all. The full study is linked in the description if you want to read it yourself. So should you eat beans? Yes. They are cheap and filling and full of fiber, and the evidence has never once pointed the other way. But notice what this story is actually telling you. Every piece of advice you get is about ingredients. The thing that seems to decide the outcome is meals. Nobody tells you what to eat your beans with. Nobody asks what the beans pushed off your plate. That gap is where the difference between 6% and nothing may have been hiding the whole time. There is probably no such thing as a healthy food. There are only healthier meals. You are not choosing ingredients at dinner tonight. You are choosing the company they keep.